When I was just a child of around 12 years of age, I had a dream. I wanted to open a newsstand to distribute information about government conspiracies. I actually had the idea, like the Mexicans selling fruit at the side of the road. At 15 years old, I was hit by a car. I was riding my bike on the same side of the road. I went right, he went left, and we made contact. I flew a fine 15 feet and into a coma. A week later, I woke up and began floating through life with very little ambition. 3 years after that, I received and flipped my first car. The doctors told my family that after that second accident, I began doing things without thinking. The fact of the matter is that if I could quiet my mind for 10 minutes, I might be able to get some decent sleep. Speaking of sleep, one morning, years later, I was awoken by the telephone and my brother's voice exclaiming, "Turn on the radio, there are terrorists and towers and airplanes, oh my!" I had been discussing with my girlfriend for some time the oncoming of World War III, and said to my brother, "I told you that this was going to happen." I hung up the phone, turned off the radio, and went back to sleep. At the age of 24, bored to the point of suicide by my pointless life, I began traveling. At the time, I considered myself an atheist. As far as I was concerned, we were a bunch of monkeys that had figured out how to catch stuff on fire. But in 6 months on the road, realizing more and more the perfect synchronization of the random events and people that were passing, I became very aware of a greater power. And within a year, I became convinced that I had a special mission or purpose for my life. At the end of my second year traveling, I entered Mexico, discovered the magic keys, and learned Spanish in 5 days. I had no idea the door that these keys would someday open. About a month in Mexico, and I made my first powerful prayer to have my eyes open. I spent the next few years traveling back and forth across the border, and at one point I purchased the book containing the magic keys and later gave that book as a gift to a young lady in Mexico who was learning English. In late 2008, I began working for a tax company in Dallas, Texas. With almost all my time free playing on the computer, I began discovering and creating a very large collection of videos and contacts via the internet. In the summer of 2009, I made my second special solicitation to this higher power. I asked for help in distributing my controversial collection of conspiracies. 2 days later, I lost my job, once again headed south, and in a few months I was in Panama City with the book containing the magic keys in my possession. I began converting the Latin categories from Spanish to English, and one special night I received the answer to that second request. Now, the book that I am currently writing, that you are currently reading, is literally a gift from God, the answer to a prayer requesting to be famous. However, 2 months before receiving this gift, I found and lifted the book containing the magic keys abandoned at a friend's house. 2 years before making this second request, I had given that book to the attractive sister of that friend. 2 years before this, I discovered the magic keys. 2 years before that, I began traveling. 2 years before that, I was awoken by a phone call, and several years before all of this, I was just a child who had a dream.